Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, your place for all those filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I am your host, DylanLasagna. This is episode number 185 of this icy yet spicy sports podcast. And in this episode, we're here to jump into the coldest depths of the freezer once again to grab that old icebox and go 20 years back to the past, back to the future for another retro review, because there's something that happened on this date, February 15th, 2004. What exactly happened on that date? Well, we're going to talk about it here in another retro review for the WWE, because they held an event called No Way Out. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. They had an event on this date with the 2004 edition of No Way Out. So in my opinion, No Way Out is a much better name for the last stop, the last pay-per-view, or as the cool kids like to say these days, premium live event. Anyway, the last pay-per-view before WrestleMania. It's, in my opinion, a much cooler name, a much more unique name than this gimmick pay-per-view that these kids have nowadays called Elimination Chamber, where it's basically themed around the Elimination Chamber match itself. That used to be scary structure that hurt people. But nonetheless, No Way Out, the last stop before WrestleMania. And this one in particular was actually one of the more memorable ones in its time. And we'll talk about why exactly that was in our Blast to the Past. So for those of you that are not aware of it at all, don't know why it's so special, well, you're in for a filthy casual treat. From the perspective of obviously a filthy casual fan, myself, especially a filthy casual wrestling fan. So before we get the ball rolling with our retro review of No Way Out 2004, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Follow Very Cold Lasagna on social media on the X and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna. And for all my audio only listeners out there, whether it be on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you rate and review the show, however many stars you want to give it, and leave some feedback as well. And for my YouTube viewers, make sure you smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, leave a comment with your own takes on each and every episode that you're watching. And yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, including on this episode as well. Leave me your thoughts on No Way Out with this retro review. And share this with your friends, share this with your neighbors, share this with a stranger. Share this with your coworkers, whoever you want to share this episode with. Share this overall podcast that is known as Very Cold Lasagna. So here we are, fresh out of the old icebox, traveled back to 20 years ago on this date, February 15th, 2004, to talk about and revisit the 2004 edition of WWE No Way Out, taking place in the Cow Palace in Daly City, California, across the bridge in the San Francisco Bay Area. WWE promoted this as emulating from San Francisco, California. A little side note before we go back into No Way Out. WWE, what are you doing? 20 years later, it's been a while. It's been a while since we had a pay-per-view. A pay-per-view here in the San Francisco Bay Area, whether it be San Jose, San Francisco, Clara. But anyway, it's been a while since we had a pay-per-view, especially a major A-level pay-per-view here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So 2018 was our last pay-per-view, and you've been slacking. And I get it, 2020 we were supposed to have one, but understand why we didn't. But we didn't get the debt back. We didn't get the what we were owed. I mean, not trying to sound ungrateful, but you've been dodging us with Raws, SmackDowns, house shows. Again, not trying to sound ungrateful, because at least we're getting that, but I think it's time. I think it's time we get something, especially a major something. Hopefully, there's a certain stadium over here in the Bay Area that could use a pay-per-view, but I digress. So anyway, back to the old icebox, going back in time once again. No Way Out 2004. Before, there was the Elimination Chamber, which I don't know why I had that name still. We had No Way Out. This pay-per-view emulating from, like I said, the Cow Palace. For many times I have to say that. But this pay-per-view was brand exclusive. So what does that mean? That means it was exclusive to one particular show, that show being SmackDown. Keep in mind, during this time period, during the Ruthless Aggression era, which went on from 2002 to 2008, this was a time where the original WWE brand split was in effect, which essentially was two different shows, two distinct rosters between Raw and SmackDown. So you were getting two different shows, two different sets of several storylines on each show. So different everything, whichever show you were interested in watching. So in this case, with the pay-per-views, that also applied, other than, the big four pay-per-views that they had at the time. The Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. So in this case, No Way Out was exclusive to SmackDown. Of course, in contrast to the prior year in 2003, where it was unbranded. So going into this event, I think, history dictates that it was best remembered for a certain thing that happened, a certain match between Latino Heat and the next big thing, the young Lion, the young WWE champion, and that was well on his way. That looked primed to go into WrestleMania in New York City, and to defend that title against another certain someone that was in his tracks. So this was the next and final stop before WrestleMania in New York. So first things first, No Way Out 2004, and it's surely going to be an interesting one. Surely going to be an interesting one off a fast turnaround, a very fast turnaround. They only had like 3 weeks to build up this show, coming off the Royal Rumble. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this show. Emma Lane from San Francisco. Oh, sorry, Daly's place. Daly's place? No, we're talking AEW. Daly City, California. So we started things off with the Sunday Night Heat pre-show. It had one match on the show, which featured Ak, Sakota, and Tajiri going up against Billy Kidman, Paul London, and Ultimo Dragon. You at least got to see this match on Spike TV as you're trying to convince your mama, your dada, or you're trying to scramble for your credit card if you're an adult during this time, and trying to enter all the numbers on the screen on your phone. Because I think that's how you did at the time. It's like you go to your cable provider and then call is like, hey, I need to order this pay-per-view, man. That's like, I think it's still $49.99 or $39.99 at the time. I don't know. I don't remember. But I know it was expensive. And compared to streaming, where it's just like, oh, you pay for Peacock, it's like $5 a month. But anyway, you go ask your mommy, your daddy, or find your credit card. But that's what this Sunday Night Heat pre-show helped you prepare for the pay-per-view. So anyway, in terms of this match, I mean, nothing too special. It was just basically one to help you get ready for the show, get you hyped up. So basically like a dark match. The Japanese team of Ak, Sakota, and Tajiri won the match. Sakota caught Ultimo Dragon midair when he was trying to perform his finisher on Tajiri, but Ultimo got super kicked, and Sakota power slammed Ultimo for the win. Tajiri got the winning pinfall. So, I mean, nothing special. So now we get to the main meat of the bones, which is the main show. And it started off with Tori Wilson and Sable. Everyone was clamoring for her. Everyone was drooling for them, especially Taz on commentary. Yeah, it was a wild time, even in the early 2000s. And I know this is probably some things that some people, including myself, can't say because you don't know the scandals and all that. But I mean, for the context of the retro review, I mean, it has to be said. I mean, you can't leave these things out. So it has to be said. So Tori Wilson and Sable, who were the Playboy cover girls of that year, kick off the show. Actually, correction, Playboy cover girls of, I think it was a special WrestleMania edition or of the month of like the next several months. I think it was a WrestleMania, started an annual WrestleMania tradition, I believe. But anyway, they kicked off the show. They just basically hyped up the crowd. And then we got to this nice intro package between the champion, Latino Heat, and the challenger, and the champion, the next big thing, the Beast. But before we got into that main event that they were hyping up in the intro package, we first got into our opening match, which featured the WWE Tag Team Champions, Rikishi and Sky Duhati, taking on the Basham Bros and Shaniqua. Who is Shaniqua, you may ask? Well, that is the enforcer of the Basham Bros, who got interjected into this match because, well, she did it herself. She was starting to get involved with Rikishi and Sky Duhati's business because she was attacking them. She was getting physical with the two. She attacked them before the Basham Bros scheduled title match. I believe it was around January time. And then around after the Royal Rumble, Rikishi and Sky Duhati won the titles from the Basham Bros. And then 3 days later, before No Way Out, Shaniqua hit Sky Duhati with this hard-ass clothesline that knocked him the fuck out, which Michael Cole described was a move on Scotty's surgically repaired neck. So it's like, ooh, boy. So that led to this rematch between Rikishi, Sky Duhati, and the Basham Bros. But now this time, Shaniqua, who I believe won Tough Enough, the second Tough Enough with somebody else. So, like, she's had a little bit of experience, still green, but she was going to wrestle in this match. So it essentially became a handicap match for the titles. So the Basham Bros, they started things off, but then eventually Shaniqua got tagged in, and she's going to face Rikishi, that big booty. And Shaniqua was about to face that big booty, that big load of fat ass from Rikishi. But the Basham Bros came in, saved her, and it looked like she was going to be facing some doom, but nope. Later on, you had Sky Duhati attempting his signature worm on one of the Bashams as the action continued to roll on, but then Shaniqua, once again, interjecting herself by attacking Sky Duhati as the heels got the momentum on their side. And then there was a little bit of, like, slow pace between the two teams, but then Shaniqua decided to, let me get involved in this. I'm going to slam, kick around Sky Duhati, and, well, that's when you knew she was in trouble. In came in Rikishi towards the end of the match, and she started taking some pretty solid bumps. She was selling actually pretty good for Rikishi. Unlike, a certain women's world champion 20 years later that always gets involved with the dudes today and interjecting in their matches during the summer and the fall with the Judgment Lame and doesn't want to take bumps in return, but will do some moves on the men. So anyway, there were some women that actually got involved back in the day with the dudes and got their comeuppance from them. In the case with Shaniqua, that was the same case here against Rikishi. So the finish of this match saw Rikishi counter Shaniqua's lariat, which was used again to take out Sky Duhati days prior, into a Samoan drop. Gave her due justice with the bonsai death drop, slamming his big butt onto Shaniqua to retain the tag team titles. This was a fun match to kick off the main portion of the show, and a little bit of revenge finally served onto the heels, both figuratively and unfortunately, literally. A little quite sad. Maybe because, I guess Shaniqua wasn't developing as WWE had hoped for, because that ended up being her last televised appearance for the WWE. She was sent to developmental. At the time, it was Ohio Valley Wrestling, and then she was later released before she retired altogether. But that kind of sucked. The Basham Bros, they were still a team during this time after No Way Out, and they still tried to go after the tag team gold. But then later on, in the next couple of years, they also got released. So let's talk about our second matchup of the night, and that was Jamie Noble taking on his former girlfriend, in storyline context, of course, Nydia, in a boyfriend versus girlfriend blindfold match. I talked about these two in my Royal Rumble retro review when Jamie Noble took on Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight title, and how Nydia played a role in that. But there's a larger context to these two relationship that goes back in 2002, because Jamie Noble and Nydia had been this on-screen trailer park trash couple that made it rich, that broke the bank. After Jamie Noble received an inheritance from, where exactly did he receive it from? From some random source. We'll go with that. So anyway, Noble would go on to spend a bunch of things for her, getting a house with running water that he loved so much, and then the key focal point later on towards the end of their relationship was a $5,000 coat. Like, damn. I don't know, man. That coat, maybe it wasn't really all that fancy. But anyway, towards the end of their relationship, there was another key focal point, was Nydia getting blinded by Tajiri and his black poison mist. So Noble decided to take advantage of that by using her blindness as an advantage. So during his next set of matches, early in 2004 and late in 2003, by using her as a human shield during his matches, and he would pretty much lie as to why. Like, Nydia would kind of question it sometimes, but because she can't see, Jamie Noble was like, it's all good. It'd just be basically like being an asshole to her. So it would come to a head at the Royal Rumble. Rey Mysterio and Jamie Noble have a pretty fast-paced Cruiserweight Championship match, as I mentioned before in that review. But during that match, Nydia accidentally trips or grabs Noble's leg when he's about to do his finisher. But then that leads to Noble getting distracted and Rey Mysterio retaining the title. So after the Royal Rumble, Noble finally dumps Nydia, and then a match between the two gets made official for No Way Out. But Noble gives her one last chance to have Nydia opt out. All she has to do is pack everything except give back the $5,000 coat. But then Nydia, she at some point regains her eyesight back after being told the truth by Rey Mysterio. And so as revenge, she destroys the $5,000 coat in some kind wood chipper. There we go. I was having difficulty figuring that out. In a wood chipper. And Jamie Noble was like, no, my coat. And then all that while revealing that Jamie Noble would have to wrestle with a black rag on his head. So basically blindfolded. So that's where we are at this point. So, I mean, this match was, it's very predictable. We knew where it was going. Nydia, she surprisingly, in this context, she was a former, like, one of the initial Tough Enough winners, but it's just like, yeah, it really didn't pan out all that much. She's playing the initial cat and mouse game pretty well, actually, against the blindfolded Noble. But the problem was it didn't last all that long because she got too cocky, had too much fun with it. Because Noble eventually caught her at first. She tried to punch out of it, but Noble just ended up taking her down. And then Nydia would escape. And then she tried to go on to the top rope, try to like dive onto Jamie Noble. But then while the referee was trying to stop her from doing it, Noble took off the blindfold to see where Nydia was. It's like, oh, there you are. And then now I'm going to slam you on the mat. And then that's when Noble used his guillotine finisher to tap her out. So yeah, I mean, it was unexpected, like, that Jamie Noble would win this match. Although it would have been funny as hell to see Nydia actually beat Jamie Noble. It was like, oh, hey, I won. I got the last laugh on you. But no, I mean, Jamie Noble was an actual active wrestler during this time. In all honesty, even if he had lost, I mean, it wouldn't really hurt him because he was on like the lower mid card. So it didn't really matter at the end of the day. So after this, Jamie Noble would compete in the Cruiserweight title match at WrestleMania. More on that in a bit. Before he had to take some time off in September and then later come back a year later. Meanwhile, for Nydia, she was drafted over to Raw a month later after WrestleMania. She would regularly team with the likes of Stacy Keibler and Victoria, and then she changed up their character from being from the South and then focused more on her actual Hispanic heritage. Unfortunately, though, she would later get released in November later in 2004. So overall, I mean, decent match, but we all knew what was going to happen. So next up, we had the world's greatest tag team, Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas, taking on the APA, Bradshaw, and Farouk. This match came up about relatively 3 days beforehand, because Bradshaw and Shelton Benjamin faced each other in a singles match, and then during that match, Bradshaw beat Benjamin, but during that match, Benjamin used some kind of move to target the arm of Bradshaw, same arm that he uses for his clothesline from hell finisher. So Bradshaw was going to that match with a severe disadvantage, that his arm was so beat up that it was going to hurt like hell when he used his finisher, which was the clothesline from hell. So yeah, that's pretty much this premise of this match. I mean, it was a decent match, a pretty quick one, because I mean, it was just your basic back and forth, the heels going after the arms of both Farouk and Bradshaw, and then Farouk, after getting some beating out of him, he would go for the hot tag for Bradshaw, and he came in hot. He was ferocious. Even hitting an avalanche top rope fallaway slam on Shelton Benjamin. But then he would get cooled off eventually, because he hit the whole clothesline from hell, but he hit it on the illegal man, Charlie Haas. Charlie Haas was not the man tagged in that he could pin, and of course he used it on the bad arm that he usually uses his finisher on. So Shelton Benjamin, who was the legal man, kicked his lights out with a super kick and won the match. I mean, not too bad, but it was just It was just So this wasn't the last time that these two teams met, but that's another story for another day. Meanwhile, as the match was over, you had a certain Raw superstar by the name of Bill Goldberg make his way to the ring, who his ringside seat actually, which was bought to him by Sheriff Stone Cold Steve Austin. So Stone Cold Steve Austin decided to give him a ringside seat to No Way Out because of what happened at the Royal Rumble. Brock Lesnar, the WWE champion, cost Goldberg the match because, of their ongoing feud that started at Survivor Series. Goldberg made some comments about him, and Lesnar decided to, I don't want Goldberg winning the Royal Rumble, so I'm just gonna, even though I'm not in it, I'm still going to find a way to cost him anyway. So Goldberg was F5 by Lesnar in the Rumble, and that led to his elimination by Kurt Angle. And that led to Goldberg spearing Paul Heyman, who made an appearance on Raw days prior to No Way Out. And once Paul Heyman saw Goldberg making his way to his ringside seat, he came out to address Mr. Big Bill, and he wanted to say a couple of things, some not very nice things, including, he would have Goldberg escorted by security if he were to do the same thing that he did to Paul Heyman again. So, as he was lecturing Big Bill, Brock Lesnar came out, despite having a WWE title match later on in the night, and he was trying to provoke him. He was trying to get him in the ring, get him to attack him, get him to jump him and all whatnot, trying to get Big Brock to prove that he's not intimidated by the big man, Big Bill himself. Although Paul Heyman was like, no, we don't need to do this right now. You better stay in your seat. But after calling Big Bill the big bitch that you are, that brought Goldberg into the ring. He jumped over the barricade and got into some fisticuffs with Brock Lesnar. After some initial offense from Lesnar, Goldberg hit a jackhammer. That's his other finisher on Brock Lesnar. But he was arrested by security afterwards and taken to the pound in San Francisco. So, I mean, that was basically a setup for what was going to happen later on in the night. But Lesnar's problems were not done yet, as Hardcore Holly came out for his match. And he decided, I'm going to go right after Lesnar too, who ran away before Hardcore Holly got his hands on him. So speaking of Hardcore Holly, he had a match with Rhino, just like with the tag team match between the APA and the World's Greatest Tag Team. This was set up relatively quickly on SmackDown before the show. Rhino purposely disqualified himself in a match against Holly out of frustration of not being able to get a clean win over Holly. So he got himself disqualified, and that led to them fighting each other all over ringside. The refs and officials had to break it up. So a match between these two was made official during Sunday Night Heat. So, I mean, this was a decent match. This was pretty physical towards the end, but I mean, it's really hard to buy into these kind of matches that don't really have a lot of build. It's put together at the last minute. But I will say, the finish was kind of interesting. Rhino got his finisher in, the gore on Hardcore Holly, but then Holly smartly rolled out of the ring before Rhino could pin him and get that clean win that he wanted. So he was like, okay, maybe I'll just take a count out win. But Holly managed to beat the 10 count, and before Rhino can hit another gore, I believe it was, Holly hit an Alabama slam out of nowhere to win the match. So decent match, but again, kind of hard to get into with just very little build. And it's pretty much like a cool down from what happened earlier. Next up, we had the WWE Cruiserweight Champion Rey Mysterio take on Chavo Guerrero. This feud was pretty much built upon Rey finding his friend Eddie Guerrero unconscious in a restroom before the SmackDown Royal Rumble match. And once Chavo Guerrero and his dad were walking in, Rey immediately accused them behind the assault. Because keep in mind, in the Royal Rumble build, Chavo and Eddie Guerrero were feuding with one another. And coming off that feud, there was still some bad blood between them, of course. And so Rey, there were still ties between them, and he decided to go after them. So he wanted to attack them. They all had to get separated. So that led to this match. And another thing to consider with this match, Chavo was getting jealous. He was getting all spiteful at Rey. He was because of the extra attention. Why is he getting a music video? Because Rey did the theme song for No Way Out and a music video too, I guess, which was called Crossing Borders. So Paul Heyman made a match for No Way Out between Rey and Chavo for the Cruiserweight title. 3 days before the pay-per-view, though, professional boxer and Rey's childhood friend Jorge Paez helped Rey, and he helped him out from a post-match attack from Chavo and his dad, and he was going to accompany him to the event. So, all right. So, before the match started, we got another promo package from The Undertaker to promote his return, not as the American Badass, but as the Dead Man. When that was going to be, well, we'll find out. So anyway, this match, it was pretty good. It was a really good matchup. Since considering, the other two matches that we had. So we thought it was going to end early. Rey got the 619 on Chavo, but the Senior Chavo Sr. Stopped Rey from dropping the dime behind the referee's back, took him off the top rope, from doing the springboard. So to counteract that, Jorge Paez, he said, "No, we're not running this interference again." He would knock the lights out of Chavo Sr., but unfortunately, the referee would catch him in the act and only eject him from ringside. It's like, come on, ref! If you're gonna eject him, you gotta eject the other guy too. You gotta throw them both out. It's like, come on, man. Chavo Sr. did something wrong. I mean, yeah, Chavo Sr. did something behind your back, but it's like, you gotta throw him out too. It's like, come on, man. That's stupid refereeing 101. So anyway, with Jorge Paez gone, well, that was basically a useless appearance. But anyway, this matchup really picked up. Chavo taking control, going after Rey's ribs with a pretty nice, mid-air, I guess it was a really nice counter. Like Rey trying for the springboard move, but then it was like Chavo countered with this counter to the ribs. So that became a focal point in the match. So he was using a buttload of moves and submissions that targeted the hurt ribs of Rey, but nothing was really putting away the champion for good. He couldn't get that recount that he was desperately needing. But Rey got back into it. He rallied, but there was one spot in the match where it could have gone wrong. Rey was trying to get a moonsault in, but He did not hit that cleanly. I think he almost landed on his head and neck. So, because I think Chavo stalled, trying to go forward. And yeah, that could have ended really bad. But anyway, Ray did hit another 619 on Chavo Guerrero. But when he tried to go for the West Coast pop, the drop in the dime, the leg drop, Chavo actually reversed it into his submission move, the lasso from El Paso, the leg lock. Ray managed to force a rope break. So that forced a rope break from the referee. But unfortunately, he could not escape from another submission maneuver from Chavo. And that was the deadly fruit roll-up. As the referee counted 1, 2, 3, Chavo Sr. Pushed Ray off the top rope and into the purple rolls for Chavo. And with a handful of tights, Chavo was your new Cruiserweight champion. Yeah, this this Cruiserweight title matchup really picked up in the second half after, not to say Jorge was bad or anything, but it's just like, it really picked up with the story that they're trying to tell. In the long, I'm not saying I'm not a fan of long matches or anything, but it was well paced, well balanced between Ray and Chavo. Chavo being the technician, slimy heel. Ray trying to rally back using his high flying skills. And yeah, I thought it was a really fun match. It was pretty good. Chavo, yeah, being the heel that he is, he finally gets the big one that he so finally desired at that time. At least in the case of the Cruiserweight title that he thought was big. So the finish, it played a role into next month's Cruiserweight title match for Chavo that he would have to defend in. A match that Ray would also get a chance to get his title back. So, yeah, in an interview backstage, Chavo claimed that he overcame the odds like an honorable, notable man. Well, he called out Eddie Guerrero, which conveniently he was right next to the locker room of. He called Eddie the lesser Guerrero and that he'd fail in his match later on that night because he's a loser. So Chavo Guerrero was your Cruiserweight champion at No Way Out 2004. So before we get into the main event of No Way Out, we have to talk about the second and final matchup of the night, and that was to determine the number one contender to that WWE champion going into WrestleMania in 2004. And that was going to either be Kurt Angle, The Big Show, or John Cena. After the Royal Rumble, General Manager Paul Heyman was slated to announce who was going to face the WWE champion at WrestleMania on the February 5th edition of SmackDown in 2004. It was initially supposed to be between Kurt Angle and The Big Show at No Way Out, but then John Cena decided to interject, and he made a lot of battle raps, a lot of pot shots against them, and that got them all pissed, especially Kurt Angle and The Big Show. So at their request, Heyman added John Cena to make it a triple threat. So this was a very interesting matchup. Kurt Angle, already an established star in WWE. Big Show, he's had some very good success too, and he's a big guy. And John Cena, one of the up-and-coming stars in WWE, and he's very popular among fans during that time as well with his Doctor of Thugonomics, his rapper gimmick. So this was going to be a pretty interesting showdown to determine who gets to face the WWE champion at WrestleMania. So let's talk about this matchup. Before the match, Cena did a battle rap to remind Kurt Angle that it was the Big Show that Big Show hit Kurt Angle with a chair on SmackDown that knocked him out backstage. It was not John Cena, it's Kurt Angle. So that also was a key point going into that matchup. But for them, it was Big Show that dominated the early portion of the match. But then Kurt Angle punched Big Show in the dick while on the apron, and that left Angle and Cena to beat up on each other. But then Big Show would come back, recover enough to retake control, and decide to pick up on John Cena, pick the bones on him until Cena started to rally back for a bit. Later on, you have John Cena actually lift up the Big Show for a big-ass FU, but unfortunately, he couldn't take full advantage of show because Big Show at the last moment got his foot on the rope. So some pretty interesting near falls in this triple threat match at the halfway point of it. So later on, you had Big Show choke slamming both Kurt Angle and John Cena. He tried to pin both of them, but both of them got kicked out of it. And then right after he tried to pin Kurt Angle, he got locked into the ankle lock before Cena broke that up. And then afterwards, he had Cena trying to go for the FU on Kurt Angle, but Big Show punched the injured knee of John Cena that Cena, when he got eliminated by the Big Show, he tweaked it at the Royal Rumble. So that became the turning point of this match. Show further weakening that injured knee of Cena before Big Show got taken out by Kurt Angle with an angle slam from the ring to the outside. It was like a crazy ass angle slam. He just like yeeted him out of the ring with like no resistance. Like that was Kurt Angle for you in 2004. And then Cena was left in the ring like a prey for Angle to pick on. He was like, yeah, you're mine. And then Angle picked up John Cena's ankle for the ankle lock and then locked in that bitch on the floor. And Cena had no choice but to tap out to the ankle lock as Angle got that WWE title match for the second year straight at WrestleMania next month. Very good triple threat that amped up the pressure in the late stages of the match with the amount of near falls, good near falls, mind you, not just like these countless near falls like in a 10-second rapid fashion. And there were some pretty good near submission breaks towards the back half of it. Kurt Angle continued his craziness of being one of the best wrestlers with his obviously his amateur wrestling background, and then that angle slam to take out the Big Show. That was a crazy angle slam, mind you. Even in defeat, John Cena, he put on another star-worthy performance against two of the top stars in WWE at the time, with Angle and Big Show. And this, even though he took the L here, having to tap out to Angle. So for all of you saying that, John Cena never tapped out, he never gave up. Yeah, he gave up here, but that's besides the point. This match was only the beginning of what was to come, especially next month for the Dr. Thuganomics. So for this match, it was very nicely paced, and Kurt Angle was set to be a part of another WWE title match at WrestleMania. So speaking of the WWE title, we have our main event. The main event involving the WWE champion Brock Lesnar taking on Latino Heat Eddie Guerrero. This is a matchup that a lot of people, at this time period, were kind of interested in, but here we are 20 years later. People still talk about this match for a variety of reasons. Because looking at the build-up towards this feud, which only had 3 weeks, mind you, actually 2, because 2 weeks, because consider the turnaround between the Royal Rumble and then No Way Out, and then considering what happened the week prior to the 2 weeks of the No Way Out actual build for this match. So for Eddie Guerrero, he was fresh off a victory over his nephew Chavo at the Royal Rumble. Despite getting knocked out in the restroom, as I mentioned earlier, he won a 15-man Royal Rumble on the following episode of SmackDown. He last eliminated Kurt Angle for the right to face Brock Lesnar at No Way Out. But Lesnar, he wasn't concerned about any of this. He didn't worry about Eddie Guerrero at all because he was more concerned about Goldberg on Raw and the comments that he made, and their feud, their eventual inevitable match at WrestleMania. So he brushed Eddie off to the side, and he's just gonna be like, it's just Eddie Guerrero. I'm not too worried about him. I'm gonna retain my title. So he's very overconfident going to this match with Eddie. So much so that on the episode of SmackDown before, I believe, it was 2 weeks before No Way Out, a very overconfident Brock Lesnar came out with that memorable mariachi band entrance. He's still doing that mariachi band, on that SmackDown episode in celebration of Eddie Guerrero. And that led to probably one of the most memorable promos in not just Eddie Guerrero's career, if not the promo of his career, but one of the most memorable promos in WWE. So Lesnar chastised Eddie for his drug addiction problems, and that while he was rehabbing, Lesnar was succeeding as the youngest WWE champion. And he would add another addiction for Eddie Guerrero, losing. So Eddie Guerrero was like, all right, I see how it is. So Eddie cut the promo of his life right here. And this is one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite promos here. He talked about his addiction problems. He talked about how it nearly ruined his life. And it did get him fired from the WWE in 2001. So Eddie Guerrero was in a really rough place prior at that point and prior to then as well, with all the drugs, painkillers, all the bad stuff, man. Drink alcohol, a lot of bad stuff. So after he got some help, he took some steps to earning his life back. He admitted he's an addict, but he's an addict from the highs, from the fans and his family, the do or die feeling that he's going to have and No Way Out. And the WWE title that he symbolizes is going to be a way to say, I'm sorry to not just his family, but to his fans and to the WWE. So I really enjoyed that promo because it was like from the heart, from what he felt for the last several years, trying to overcome his demons. And yeah, for all of you that are still trying to overcome your problems, just look at this promo. I mean, at least one of these sources. Eddie, if you need some inspiration, at least one source is this promo right here. So anyway, you go into this match, the Cow Palace is going crazy insane once Eddie Guerrero comes out. They're red hot for Latino Heat. They're going the hell out of Brock Lesnar. But unfortunately for Brock Lesnar, he thoroughly dominates Eddie Guerrero with his power, his strength. I mean, obviously, the dude is like double the size as Eddie. So what do you expect? So this goes on for about half of the match. But then Eddie rallies back later on. He gets some offense in, trying to keep Lesnar down, repeatedly down, going after his injured knee that Lesnar decides to go for a high knee for on the top turnbuckle, but he misses. So that's why the knee is injured. So he tries to take him down with a bunch of moves, but still not enough to keep him down. Still not enough to get Lesnar on the offensive. But later on, you have Lesnar getting hit with the 3 amigo suplexes by Eddie. But Eddie can't capitalize because he misses the frog splash. And Lesnar hit the F5. But during the process, he also accidentally knocked out the referee in the process. So this was a turning point of the match because, well, with no referee, you know what that meant. Shenanigans. Before there were the bloodline shenanigans, you had this referee shenanigans in the WWE title match. So Lesnar decided to bring out the WWE title in the ring. He was going to hit Eddie with it, knock his ass out. But then out of nowhere, Goldberg broke out of whatever San Francisco jail, probably not San Quentin, what is it, out of one? I can't remember. It's not at the top of my name. But anyway, it's not at the top of my name, but somewhere there in San Francisco. Goldberg showed up, breaking out of jail, the spear the lights out of Lesnar, and we all thought Eddie was going to win there. Eddie was going to win the WWE Championship right then and there, get some help from Goldberg, but unfortunately, just not enough. Lesnar kicked out, and Eddie decided, you know what, I'm going to go to my motto, lie, cheat, and steal. He tried to hit Lesnar with the title, but Lesnar stopped him in his tracks, trying to hit an F5, but Eddie countered it into a DDT, conveniently onto the WWE title, to which Taz was saying, hey, he cheated. But didn't Lesnar try to do the same? I'm just kidding. I love Taz, by the way, on commentary. So anyway, Eddie threw out the title to make sure the referee didn't see anything when he recovered. And then he made his way up for one of the most famous frog splashes that you'll ever see for the 1, 2, 3. And a new WWE champion was crowned in Daly City, aka San Francisco, Eddie Guerrero. So I've seen this match various times, whether it be on YouTube or various social media pages. But watching it again, it's just such a great reminder just how damn good it was. From a storyline perspective, from a wrestling perspective, well, actually just a true wrestling perspective. Like all the 5-star matches. This is what a wrestling match should be. A good story, albeit, it was like a 3-week build. But nonetheless, if you do it right, then this is the result that you can get. A really good story-driven match that has Brock Lesnar showcasing his dominance for a good part of the match. And he was literally telling Eddie Guerrero, hey, just die. Of course, symbolically, of course. And then you have Eddie Guerrero showing the embodiment of Latino Heat all match long. Someone that would face his demons head on and do all he could to overcome them. This match was pretty much a culmination of Eddie Guerrero conquering his demons of the past and the demon that's in front of him to get his ultimate goal, the WWE Championship, being on top. And I'll say this, this is like one of my favorite moments in of wrestling. I don't know how, I can't rank it really much, but I don't really do that much. But, watching this was really touching. This was really nice to see again. And Michael Cole and Taz were also really good, selling the story of what Eddie needs to do to try and win this match. It really was a good example, another really good example of why they were such a great commentary team back in the day. They also sold on how significant the victory was when the match was over. Eddie celebrating in the crowd, celebrating with the fans, with the flag. So all in all, the tale of Eddie Guerrero reached a great climax in the Cow Palace. And 20 years later, it still remains one of the best stories told. Yeah, short, sweet, but it was very to the point. So this match set up 2 WrestleMania feuds going forward. Eddie Guerrero facing Kurt Angle for the WWE title, and then Brock Lesnar facing Goldberg. And these two would be some high-profile matchups. And, of course, we all know how the Lesnar-Goldberg match would be. But that's another story for potentially another trip to the Old Icebox for another day. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on WWE No Way Out 2004 as we close the Old Icebox yet again. Did you ever watch this pay-per-view from 2004? And if you haven't, let me know your experience, your own thoughts on watching this for the first time, especially the main event, or maybe it's another match that piqued your interest. And then if you watched this before, let me know your memories of the 2004 No Way Out from the WWE. I'd like to get your thoughts on this pay-per-view. That is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Thank you for tuning into episode number 185 of this icy yet spicy sports podcast. And don't forget to leave your takes on this episode, whether it's on YouTube or on social media. I'm at Very Cold Lasagna on both X and Instagram. So leave me your own takes in the comments on YouTube or on social media with the topic that was WWE No Way Out 2004. But anyway, that is it for this episode. Until the next one, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And as always, peace out.